like you. You supposed to be my mama, and you supposed to be my sister, and you supposed to be my brother, loving one another. I thought, but nowadays I'm caught deep in thought, cause things don't act like they ought. Take me back, Lord, to the first, when family reunion was on Sunday at the church. The things seem strange, instead of familiar, instead of edifying. Saints want to kill you, see you dying, and I'm crying out for those who knows how the Spirit of God flows with love, agape, and I pray that we.
All right. Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to today's session out of A Course in Miracles. My name is Oliver Blue, and I am your single host. I am your single coach, and I am your single brother. But more importantly, I am your permanent self. And I acknowledge you this day as we gather together for another eye-opening workbook lesson out of A Course in Miracles. Today we're going to be looking at workbook lesson 188, which is one of my favorites. It may be one of yours. And I think it's what is needed in this moment. I think it's what will help us to correct our thinking, our perception. I think it's what will help us to see clearly in this exact moment. And so let's sit back and relax, and let's allow this one idea, this one thought to transform us in this holy instant. Workbook lesson 188 states that the peace of God is shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now. And so here in this thought of God, it talks about peace. It talks about the source of peace, which is God. It makes reference to that the peace that has its source in God is shining. That shining means that it is continuously shining. The ing means that it is shining presently and continually shines. And it's shining specifically in me or as me, and it's doing it right now. So, just for a moment, let us close our eyes and let us just relax, take a deep cleansing breath. And as we exhale, we allow any thought, any memory, any idea, anything that would distract us from this present now moment. We exhale it, we release it in this moment. And we recognize our oneness with our Creator, our source, and our God. We recognize that there is but the one that we all share. So every breath that I take is the breath that God takes. Every moment of consciousness, awareness that I experience, God is conscious and aware in that experience with me, never to be separate from me. That which comes and goes is not that which is what we share, but that which is always present, that which is always in the now moment, that which is always in this holy instant. which is awareness and the consciousness itself. That is what we share. And now, in this now moment, we embraced only the thoughts that we think with God. We release all others. We would have no other. As a father, and as a father, extending its love to a precious son, and a son responding to the father with returning that which the father has given. We are now united in one voice. We're united in one reality. We're united in one truth. We are united in one law, the law of love. And we are united in that love. And so we hold this moment sacred. And we don't hold it to ourselves, but we extend this love that we hold in this moment to all living things. And we see and we embrace that all living things gets its life all living things are sustained by the love and the life that we share. And we extend with no exception the love, the joy, the peace that is shining in us right now to all living existence. And we are happy and grateful in this moment to be in that oneness as a co-creator of our Father. And so it is. And with that thought, that the peace of God, what is the peace of God? We would have to ask. But that peace, that present, that certainty, that assurance, that reality, that which God is shining in me now, is shining in all of us right now. And so why wait for heaven? Why wait for heaven? As though it is some future experience. As though it is something that is separate and apart from us. Or even why wait for God? When we now know in reality that God is our very life, our very existence, that the life that God is the life that we share. So God is always present, never absent. We are always present and we are never absent. So why wait for heaven? Those who seek the light as it's something outside of us are merely covering their eyes because it's present. It's shining in us now. So why seek for that which you already possess? It would have to be that we don't know that we possess it. And it would have to be that we don't know that we possess it because we don't give it away. So those who seek the light are merely covering their eyes. The light is in them now. The light is everywhere present. Enlightenment is but a recognition, not a change at all. If we are waiting on or anticipating some type of dynamic change to occur before we realize that the light is in us now, then we but cover our eyes. For enlightenment is but a recognition, not a change. Enlightenment is the most natural experience one can have, like breathing. You don't think about it, breathing, do you? No. Why? Because there's one that breathes you. You don't think about your heart beating. Why? Because there's one that beats your heart. Likewise, enlightenment, which is the state of being filled with the fullness of God. That is not a change, but a recognition that is already present within you and within every living thing. Light is not of the world. This world of falsity is not the source of light. And yet we who bear the light, who possess the light, are aliens here as well. This world as we know it is not our home. We are aliens. We are foreigners. We are passing by. We are having a temporary experience. This world cannot define you or us. This world cannot change your original creation. We all remain as God created us. God did not create us as bodies. God knew us before there was ever any time or space or form or any object that we can perceive. We would have to transcend the thinking of this world. We would have to transcend the limitations of this world to come to know our true self. To recognize the reality of who we are. It transcends this world. You cannot find the source of the light in this world. You cannot find your source in this world. You cannot find yourself in this world. Our elder brother put it this way. He said, I am in this world. I'm having a temporary experience. I'm an alien here. I'm a foreigner. He said, but I'm not of this world. In other words, this world is not his source. He was saying that Mary and Joseph is not my source. Likewise, our parents are not our source. We existed long before there was a recognition of a body. You existed long before there was a heaven and an earth. You existed long before there was any form. And we was with our Father, our Creator from the beginning, before the world was. And all that has been created, all that God has extended, we were there with him with it in the beginning. And so we are co-creators with God. That's our true identity. How awesome. How beyond this world understanding. But that is who we are. That is who you are. That is who all humanity is. The light came with us from our native home. Notice now. the light that we are, it came with us from our native home and stayed with us because it is our own. And so we have never been separate from the light. We have never been separate from God. We have never, ever been separated from our Father. We have never been separated from each other. But we find ourselves having an experience in a dream-like world where separation, not oneness, but separation, is the main message. It's the main idea. And that is what keeps us blind to the reality of the oneness that we share. And so we have to wake up from this dream of separation. We have to wake up from this body identification. And but recognize the truth that is true always about who we are. It is the only thing that we brought with us from Him who is our source. It shines in us because it lights our home and leads us back to where it came from. And we are at home. We have said many times in these workbook lessons that we are the holy home of God. John puts it this way in the scriptures. He said, God is light. And in God there is no what? There is no darkness. And if that light is our source, and if that light is shining in us now, and if that light has enlightened us to the recognition that that light is always present, then we are one with the light. We are one with God. So whatever God is, that's what we are in reality and in truth. This light cannot be lost. Why wait to find it in the future? Why wait for heaven? Why wait for a light? Why wait for enlightenment? Why wait for something or anything in the future? All that is real, it is present right now. And it is present within you. Enlightenment is but a recognition. It's not a change. I know we've heard it in many circles. I'm going to wait till my change come. Well, you'll be waiting. Because you are the changeless. You are the unaltered one. But we find ourselves in a world of change, in a world of perception, where everything is constantly changing and moving and being altered. That's just an indication that it's not real. Just like a shadow, it's not real. Just like in sleeping dreams. The objects in those dreams, the people in those dreams, the scenario in those dreams, they seem so real until you wake up. And then you realize that they were what? They were nothing. And that's what happens when we wake up from the dream of separation. When we but recognize the reality of our true identity, of our true being, of our true nature. There's nothing going to change. We just but recognize who we really are. It can so easily be looked upon. So we say the light cannot be lost. Why wait for it in the future or believe that it has been lost already or will ever be? Because it never will be. For you to lose the light that you are would be for God to lose himself, and that's not possible. It can so easily be looked upon that arguments which prove it is not there becomes ridiculous. It's a ridiculous argument to say that you are not the light of the world, that the light of God is not within you. Jesus said it, that he's the light that lighteth all that come into the world. And he wasn't talking about him as an individual, but he talked about what he represents. Jesus represents the light of the world, just like you do too. And so, who can deny the presence of what he beholds in him? It is not difficult to look within, for there all vision starts from within, not from without. This world cannot offer you the vision, the Christ vision. The world cannot offer you the vision of oneness. It can only offer you the vision of multiplicity or separation, division. That vision only comes from the light. It only comes from God. It only comes from within. And it's not difficult to look within. There is no sight, be it of dreams or from a truer divine source, that is not but the shadow of the seen through inward vision. But a shadow. It all comes from within. Jesus said this, that the kingdom of God, what, is within you. Or to take it further, when we come to full recognition, we realize that the kingdom of God is you. That you have been filled with the fullness of God. It says, their perception starts where? Inwardly, with the vision. That's where true perception starts. And there is where it ends. It has no source but this. The peace of God is shining in you now. The peace of God is shining in you now. And from your heart, that peace extends around the world. Notice now, it extends from your heart, not from your mind. But it extends from your heart, which represents your nature. It extends from your true being. It extends from your eternal self. It extends from the essence of who you really are. It extends from the light that we share with God. It pauses to caress every living thing and leaves a blessing with it that remains forever and forever. This is what the peace of God is doing in your life, even right now, even without you knowing it. But when you come to recognize it, you join in on the radiant beauty of the light shining and of the peace shining. Because the light is always shining. The peace is always being extended around the world. It pauses to caress all living things. What it gives must be eternal. So this peace that we're talking about, it's not of this world. It's not of our making. It's not of our decision, but it is the peace that resides in our true nature. It's the peace that resides in our divine self. It's the peace that is the oneness that we all share. It is what sustains all of us. It is what sustains the world. It's eternal. It transcends the peace of this world, which there is no peace in this world. It removes all thoughts of the ephemeral and the valueless. It transcends, it removes all thoughts of the temporary, of the carnal. This peace that we're talking about, it transcends this false world. The Bible talks about a peace that passes all understanding, meaning it passes all the understanding of this world. It transcends this temporary world. This peace is not that which can be seen, but this peace is that which is what not seen. It's eternal. It's not temporal. It brings renewal to all tired hearts and lights all vision as it passes by. All of its gifts are given everyone. All of its gifts are given to everyone. And everyone unites in giving thanks to you who give and you who have received. Because it is our receiving all the gifts of God in creation, the peace of God, the light of God, the love of God, the eternalness of God, the preciousness of God, the all-knowingness of God, the infinite intelligence of God. We receive that in our creation. And that is what we give. And that is what we extend to all living things. The shining in our minds remains the world, or reminds the world. The shining that is in our minds, it reminds the world of what it has forgotten. And the world restores the memory to you as well. From our salvation radiates with gifts beyond all measures, given and returned. Remember, giving and receiving is one act of love. As we're talking here, we are sharing and extending the idea of oneness, the idea of the light that we are. We are extending the reality and the idea of the peace of God that is shining in us now. And that idea only increases in us. It shines brightly in our minds. And we hold this shining ray of reality for all humanity, for all those who have yet to recognize the truth that is true always. So we hold this for those that are still asleep. We hold this thought in our hearts. We hold this thought in our mind. And these are the thoughts that we share with God. To you, the giver of the gift, does God himself give thanks. And in his blessing, does the light in you shine brighter, adding to the gifts you have to offer the world. The peace of God can never be contained. It's beyond time and space. Who recognizes it within himself must give it. when you are enlightened, or when you are made aware that you feel with the light of God, or you feel with the fullness of God. It says here that you must give it, you must extend it. And the means for giving it are in our understanding. That's why in all our getting, we must get understanding. We must stand under God's point of view. We must stand under God's perception. We must stand under God's awareness and God's consciousness. And it is in our understanding, the oneness that we share. And it is there that we are inspired, that we know that what we have, that all that we've been given, it's been given to us to extend and to give to all humanity, to all living things. We forgive because we recognize the truth in us. We forgive because we recognize the truth in our brother and sister. The peace of God is shining in us right now and in all living things. In quietness, is it acknowledged universally? In quietness. When we get quiet and when we look within and we see the beauty of this relationship, when we see the beauty of this oneness, we acknowledge it universally, meaning what? It's been given to everyone and everything. All things are the one thing. All things have been reconciled into the one thing. For what our inward vision look upon is our perception of the universe. And we no longer look upon a vision of separation, but we look upon a vision of oneness. So we sit quietly and close our eyes. The light within us is sufficient. It's more than enough. It's more than enough. The light within you, the light within me, the light within all living things is more than enough. It is sufficient. It alone has power to give the gifts of sight to us. Exclude the outer world and let our thoughts fly to the peace within as we look within in quietness. They know the way. Our thoughts know the way to peace. Our thoughts know the way home. They know the way to peace. For honest thoughts, for real thoughts, untainted by the dream of worldly things outside of ourselves, become the holy messengers of God Himself. So it's our thoughts, our thoughts that we think with God. These thoughts that we think with Him. It's always been about the thoughts that we think with God. The thoughts that we don't think with God. They are meaningless. They are valueless. They only serve to be an attack on God. They only serve to be blinders to our reality. But the thoughts that we think with God in quietness, in all honesty, knowing that we are one with our Father, knowing that we are eternal, knowing that our reality is the same reality that God is. These thoughts recognize their home. And they point surely to their source. where God the Father and the Son are one. God's peace is shining on these thoughts, but they must remain with us as well, for they were born within our mind, as ours were born in the mind of God. They lead us back to peace from where they came, but to remain or to remind us how we must return. Take heed that your Father's voice when you refuse to listen. Take heed your Father's voice when we refuse to listen. Take heed of our Father's voice in those moments. And they urge you gently to accept his word for what they are, instead of fantasies and shadows. They remind you that you are the co-creator of all things that live. Did you hear that? We are the co-creators of all things that live. We're not the creators of things that die, of things that change, of things that move, but we're the co-creator of things that live. For as the peace of God is shining in us, it must shine in everything that lives. And so we practice coming nearer to the light in us today. This is our practice for today. We take our wandering thoughts and gently bring them back to where they fall in line with all the thoughts we share with God. So this is part of the discipline that we're going through as we take a step each time we look into a new thought, a new workbook lesson in the Course in Miracles. We are disciplining ourselves to not allow the mind to just wander in any direction, in any into any idea that is not a loving thought. We begin to learn how to reject the thoughts that are not of God and accept and embrace the thoughts that are God. That's the discipline. We don't just let our mind run like a runaway child. But we remind ourselves that we think only the thoughts what we think with God. And so we will not let our thoughts stray. We let the light within our minds direct them to come home. We have betrayed them, ordering that they depart from us. But now we call them back. At one point, we resisted the thoughts of God, which are our own real thoughts. But now we call them back and wash them clean of strange desires and disordered wishes. We restore to them the holiness of their inheritance. So it's all about being transformed, by the renewing of the mind. Why do we renew the mind? So our thoughts can only embrace the thoughts that we think with God. And we become less of a thought wanderer. We quit allowing our mind to be used to think the thoughts of the ego system of separation, of hatred and vitriol, and all of the things that are not loving, all of the things that are not forgiving. We no longer wander and wallow in those thoughts. Thus our minds are restored. Thus our minds are no longer conformed to this world, but it's transformed. It's restored by the renewing. We make it new. We remind ourselves of the true identity of who we are. And we acknowledge that the peace of God, notice now, We acknowledge that the peace of God is shining in us right now, and from us to all living things that share our life. So we are a part of the shining light of God in the earth. We are the light of the world. That's what it means. That we shine the light until all humanity, every single solitary humanity that is dreaming of separation and mind wandering in sleep, until everyone wakes up and recognizes that the light has come and that they are part of the light. We allow this light to shine brightly within us and our minds to every living thing. So we are co-sustainers of the love of God for our brothers and our sisters. This is the part that we play in God's plan for salvation for all humanity. And so as we sit today in quietness and remind ourselves that the peace of God is shining in us now, it's not for us only, but the peace of God is shining in all living things. It shines in us, from us to all living things. So we're not just chopped liver. We have been given a role and a responsibility. We have been given the major role in God's plan for salvation. We will forgive them all, absolving all the world from what we thought it did to us. We give up all of our hate thoughts, all of our thoughts of separation, all of our thoughts of what we thought the world was doing to us. For it is we who make the world as we would have it. We are the maker of this world. Now we choose that it be innocent. We release the world from what it thought it was. We release the world from the false idea of what it thought it was. We release humanity from the false idea of what it thought it was. Devoid of sin. Notice what it said. Now we choose it that it be innocent, devoid of sin, and open to salvation. Now you understand what Romans mean when it says that the earth groaneth and travaileth for the manifestation of the sons of God. Why? Because it wants to be set free. All humanity wants to be set free. All living things want to be set free from the self-deception of sin, guilt, and fear, from the miscreation that we made. And so now all the world goes free. All the world is open to salvation because of us, because the peace of God is shining in us now. And now that we have only open ourselves up to think the thoughts we think with God. So there's agreement. And we lay our saving blessings on this world and on all living things as we say these words. The peace of God is shining in me now. Say this to yourself because it's the truth. The peace of God is shining in me now. Let all things shine upon me in that peace, and let me bless them with the light in me. So I become, when we are enlightened, when we recognize the truth, we become the light of the world. Not become it. We recognize that we're already that the light had always been shining, and it's shining brightly everywhere in all things. And so now we acknowledge that by allowing all things to shine upon us in this peace that we share. and that we become the blesser with the light that is in us. So we bless the world. In other words, we fill the world with the fullness of the light that we are. That's what it means to be blessed, that I'm filled with the fullness of God. And because I'm filled with the fullness of God, I extend that feeling, I extend that light, that fullness to all living things. I join in oneness with all things. And now all things which have been given us, that now we extend and give, has been given for us richly to enjoy. And that's our workbook lesson for today. Workbook lesson 188. I love this lesson. The peace of God is shining in me now. It's shining in you. It's shining in all things. But you can only see it through the light. And so you but recognize. It's called enlightenment. It's but a recognition. There's no change. Don't wait for some spiritual experience. Don't wait for some, euphoria event to happen in your life. No, it's the most natural thing that can happen. Like waking up from sleep. You just recognize, I'm awake. I'm enlightened. I'm one with everything. There's nothing that needs to change. Why? Because in reality, there is no change. I remain as God created me. Sinless and guiltless and whole and complete. Eternal. Of the one love. So think on these things today, because we only desire to think on those thoughts that we think with our Creator God. How blessed is that? Have a great day. We'll be back on tomorrow with Workbook Lesson 189. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.